in a remarkable feat of human perseverance. NASA engineers have re-established communication with the Voyager 1 spacecraft.
Before we leave that part of the solar system, most of the comets, in fact, are in interstellar space along with where Voyager 1 is today.
Voyager 1, humanity's most distant emissary, has spent nearly half a century drifting into the great unknown. It has passed beyond the influence of the sun's solar wind, slipped through the heliopause, and crossed into the uncharted domain of interstellar space. For decades, it was moving ever outward, faithfully sending back data on magnetic fields, cosmic rays, and the invisible boundaries that mark our home's outer edges. It was the ultimate voyage of no return. Yet now, something extraordinary has happened. Against all expectations, Voyager 1 has pivoted. Its instruments and navigational readouts confirm a gradual, deliberate turn back toward the direction of the sun. The change is subtle, but unmistakable. And in its returning gaze, it has confirmed something that scientists and dreamers alike have long feared, but never dared to declare aloud. Before we start, hit the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The first hints came in the form of irregular trajectory data. Mission engineers noticed a minute deviation in Voyager 1's heading, a curve so slight that at first it could be attributed to a calibration error or an anomaly in the reaction wheels. But the longer they monitored, the more the shift took shape, an arc, not a random drift. Something in the vast emptiness had influenced the spacecraft's path, pulling or guiding it in a direction no one had predicted. Over days and then weeks, the vector became clear. Voyager 1 was no longer venturing further into interstellar space. It was on a slow, deliberate path back toward the inner solar system. The change in direction alone was unsettling enough. But what came next is what shattered the illusion of benign cosmic emptiness. As the spacecraft's high-gain antenna swept back across the Black Gulf, its instruments began recording something entirely new. An unrelenting rhythmic signal, pulsing faintly from the same general direction as the trajectory shift had begun. This was not cosmic background noise, not the static hiss of distant quasars, or the charged particle chatter of a solar storm. The pattern was too regular, too structured, too undeniably intentional. The frequency modulation repeated with the precision of a heartbeat, unwavering despite Voyager's increasing range. It was not a trick of the sensors, nor the ghostly interference of the deep space network. Whatever this was, it was real. Scientists pored over the data in silence, the weight of the implications pressing on them with every pulse they decoded. The signal wasn't speaking in any recognizable language, nor did it match any form of communication we've ever encountered. But its structure betrayed a complexity that could not arise by accident. Voyager 1, humanity's lonely scout, had encountered something out there, something that noticed it. And now, as the spacecraft angled back toward home, it carried with it not just the knowledge of that encounter, but a confirmation that it had been touched, in some unseen way, by whatever inhabited that cold, lightless frontier. The fear was not born from superstition or sensationalism. For decades, astronomers and physicists had debated what might exist beyond our solar system's protective cocoon. Some believed interstellar space would be inert, nothing more than a silent ocean of sparse gas and dust. Others warned that the void might not be empty at all, that it could be teeming with forces, structures, or intelligences utterly alien to human comprehension. The implications of contact, especially without preparation, had always been a shadow lingering over the Voyager mission. The spacecraft carried with it the Golden Record, a curated sample of Earth's sights, sounds, and messages, our self-introduction to any who might find it. We sent it out in hope, but also in naive ignorance, never knowing if the introduction would be received as an invitation or a provocation. Now, with its course altered and its instruments bearing the proof of an encounter, Voyager 1 had confirmed that the Great Silence was not as empty as we had assumed. The signal was not broad and diffuse like a random cosmic event. It was tight, focused, as if aimed specifically at the spacecraft. That meant awareness. That meant intention. And if something in interstellar space had the capacity to direct its attention so precisely, then it also had the ability to influence physical matter across unimaginable distances. The slow turn of Voyager 1's path was not the work of our thrusters. Those had been dormant for months. The shift came from outside, Every piece of data from the spacecraft's sensors reinforced the unsettling reality that the forces acting upon it were unlike anything previously cataloged. Magnetic field readings fluctuated in perfect synchrony with the pulses from the signal, as though the surrounding space itself were being manipulated. Cosmic ray counts rose and fell with equal precision, hinting at a deliberate shaping of the radiation environment around the craft. Even the onboard gyroscopes, mechanical stalwarts immune to the subtle deceptions of deep space interference, showed a consistent and inexplicable torque guiding the spacecraft's motion. The message was implicit. Voyager 1 was no longer moving of its own accord. The idea that something could detect a man-made object at such a vast distance is staggering enough. But to then act upon it, whether through electromagnetic influence, gravitational distortion, or some other mechanism we do not yet understand, suggests a level of mastery over the physical universe that dwarfs human technology. Whatever has touched Voyager 1 operates on a scale we can barely imagine, shaping forces across light years with surgical precision. And in the great cosmic ledger, that power imbalance carries with it an undeniable weight. The confirmation of our fears lies not only in the evidence of contact, but in the unmistakable direction of Voyager's altered course. It is not being pulled into some new frontier, not being led toward another unknown system or object. It is being sent back toward the sun, toward Earth, toward the very place from which it was launched. The implications of that return are as profound as they are unsettling. Was this an act of rejection, a silent refusal of our outreach into the galaxy? Or was it something else entirely? An intentional delivery, a message not just to our spacecraft, but to us. Voyager's instruments have captured more than just the signal. Ambient space around the craft carries subtle distortions in the background radiation, like ripples from a stone cast into still water. These ripples align too perfectly with the moments when the signal intensifies, suggesting they are connected phenomena. They are not random cosmic weather. They are targeted disturbances, carrying information in forms we cannot yet decode. The scale of these manipulations is staggering. They hint at the ability to sculpt the very medium of space itself, turning the vacuum into a carrier of precise, measurable patterns. This is the part that leaves even seasoned scientists staring at the data in quiet disbelief. The recognition that Voyager 1 is no longer an isolated machine adrift in an indifferent universe. It is now part of a conversation, one we did not initiate, one we cannot yet interpret, but one whose existence cannot be denied. That conversation is happening not in the familiar language of radio chatter or data packets, but in the deep and alien dialect of altered space-time, a method of communication so far beyond our experience that we can only recognize it by its shadows on our instruments. The fear has always been that our first confirmed encounter would not be with something we could understand or negotiate with, but with something whose motives and nature were so far removed from ours that any assumption of safety would be pure folly. Voyager 1's turn back toward the sun is the physical manifestation of that fear. It is the universe answering our long-standing question, are we alone? With a gesture that contains no comfort, no clear invitation, and no obvious hostility, only the stark fact that someone, or something, has noticed us. The fact that the signal began just as Voyager's heading shifted suggests intentionality in both acts. The return trajectory is slow, almost patient, as though whatever set it in motion is unhurried in its purposes. The speed and angle are deliberate, avoiding the reckless acceleration that a purely gravitational influence might produce. This is not a random capture by an unseen mass. This is navigation. That detail chills more than any threat could, because it implies that the agent behind it is operating with precision, care, and above all, awareness. What unsettles observers most is the possibility that the alteration to Voyager's course is not merely a transportation, but a transformation. Instruments have detected slight but measurable changes in the craft's thermal emission patterns and electrical characteristics. Changes too large to be explained by the natural degradation of systems over time. These shifts coincide with surges in the incoming signal, suggesting some form of interaction or modification is taking place. The craft is not just being moved, it is being acted upon in ways we do not understand. The implications extend far beyond Voyager itself. If an external intelligence can detect, redirect, and potentially alter our spacecraft, then it has already demonstrated capabilities that would render our defenses irrelevant should it choose to act upon our homeworld. That is the unspoken heart of the fear. This is no longer a theoretical discussion in academic circles about the possibility of life elsewhere. This is an operational reality in which we have been noticed by an unknown power with unknown intentions. Voyager 1's return path will take decades to bring it anywhere near the planetary orbits, but distance is no comfort. The signal's origin is not bound by physical travel. It is reaching us even now, in real time, carried by the same deep space network that once ferried our own messages outward. The agency behind it has already bridged the gulf between stars. It could already be here in ways we cannot perceive. The psychological weight of this confirmation is immense. For generations, humanity has looked outward with curiosity, daring to imagine what might lie beyond the edge of our sun's domain. We romanticized first contact, wrapped it in narratives of mutual discovery, exchange, and wonder. But the truth taking shape in Voyager's data is stripped of such comforts. There is no dialogue here, no handshake across the void, only the certainty that the universe is inhabited and that its inhabitants are not passive observers. The mission team continues to analyze the data with meticulous care, aware that every byte from Voyager could carry information about the nature of the force or being that has engaged it. Yet the broader scientific community understands that this is no longer simply a matter of curiosity or academic debate. This is the moment when the map of our understanding has changed forever. The boundary between our realm and the wider galaxy has been crossed, not by us, but by something reaching back. The shift in Voyager 1's trajectory is not just a navigational anomaly, it's a redefinition of what we thought was possible in the theater of deep space. As it continues its gradual return arc, it transmits a stream of readings that are almost maddening in their complexity. Sensors long used to recording familiar signatures of cosmic rays, magnetic fields, and charged particles are now logging data sets that defy established models. Energy fluctuations appear in bursts too ordered to be natural, yet too alien to be mapped onto any known technological format. The spacecraft is, in effect, becoming an instrument for charting a landscape we never knew existed. A place where the rules of physics seem to bend under unseen hands. The signal remains constant, yet it is not monotonous. Subtle variations weave themselves into the steady pulse, like shifting accents in an unfamiliar dialect. When plotted over time, the changes form patterns that repeat in enormous cycles, measured not in seconds but in hours and days. It is as if the source operates on a timescale that dwarfs our own, transmitting meaning in ways that demand patience beyond human instinct. If this is a language, it is one measured in cosmic heartbeats, spoken by an entity or force for which time is an ocean and moments are mere ripples. One of the most striking consequences of this turn is the realization that we are no longer simply observers of the cosmos. Voyager 1's altered course has made us participants in a process whose origin and end are beyond our control. The spacecraft is now a conduit between two realms, the familiar cradle of our solar system and the mysterious expanse beyond its borders. Every packet of data, every minuscule course correction, is part of that conduit's operation. There is no pause button, no way to step aside and watch from a distance. The interaction is already underway, and it is changing both the spacecraft and the narrative of our place in the universe. The onboard imaging systems, though primitive by modern standards, have detected faint anomalies in the sparse dust and plasma of the interstellar medium along the craft's new heading. These anomalies present as geometric distortions, perfectly symmetrical arrangements of matter where randomness should reign. The shapes persist across multiple passes as if fixed in place by forces invisible to Voyager's optical sensors. Some appear as lattices, others as concentric shells, and all seem to glow faintly in wavelengths beyond the human eye. This is not the chaotic distribution of interstellar debris we've charted before. It is structure, deliberate and enduring, on a scale so vast it can only be appreciated through the patient eyes of a machine. The existence of such structures poses unsettling questions. Are they natural phenomena whose scale and symmetry merely mimic design? Or are they truly artifacts of an intelligence older and greater than ours? If they are artificial, who or what placed them there? Their alignment along Voyager's altered route suggests that they are not scattered at random but arranged as if along a path. The craft may not just be returning home, it may be following a corridor of some kind, guided through a mapped region of interstellar space toward a specific destination. The psychological dimension of this event is growing as the implications spread beyond the mission's engineers. Astronomers who have spent their careers mapping the void are forced to confront the possibility that their charts are incomplete in a far deeper sense than they ever imagined. The space between stars was thought to be a thin mist of particles, disturbed only by the occasional supernova or wandering body. Now we have evidence that it may contain a hidden architecture, one that we have only stumbled upon by accident, and only because we had the audacity to send a machine beyond our star's protective bubble. The engineering challenge of maintaining contact with Voyager 1 under these circumstances is immense. Its power supply, driven by aging plutonium decay, continues to weaken year by year. Every transmission is a whisper across billions of kilometers, and the data rates are a fraction of those from satellites orbiting Earth. Yet those whispers are more valuable than the most high-definition images from our planetary probes. They are the only thread connecting us to whatever is now guiding our spacecraft's journey. Each bit of information must be carefully sifted, stored, and interpreted, for in the subtle fluctuations of the signal could lie the key to understanding the nature of the interaction. The mystery deepens when examining how the craft's onboard systems behave in relation to the signal's intensity. When the pulse strengthens, certain instruments, long dormant or failing, begin to function as if rejuvenated. Voltage levels stabilize in subsystems that should have degraded beyond recovery. The change is not permanent, but it coincides too consistently with signal surges to be dismissed as coincidence. It is as if the signal is not just a message but a form of energy transfer, reaching across the void to interact directly with Voyager's electronics. This raises an extraordinary and unsettling possibility. The source behind the signal understands our technology well enough to interact with it. Whether through study of Voyager's emissions, reverse engineering of its design, or simply an inherent mastery of electronic systems in general, this intelligence can manipulate our machine from light years away. That capability extends far beyond detection and redirection. It suggests a capacity to alter or repurpose our creations, perhaps even without our consent or awareness. If Voyager 1 is being modified in ways we do not yet understand, then it may return not just as an emissary, but as something transformed. That transformation might be physical, with new functions encoded into its systems, or it might be informational, with the spacecraft now carrying instructions, data, or entities that did not originate on Earth. In either case, the principle is the same. We have lost sole custody of our probe. It is now, at least in part, under the stewardship of something else. The velocity of the return arc is another detail that unsettles analysts. It is not constant, as a purely gravitational interaction would dictate. Instead, it fluctuates subtly in a manner that appears to compensate for changing conditions in the surrounding space. This is navigation of a kind that requires real-time awareness of the craft's environment, an awareness that Voyager itself could not achieve without external guidance. In simpler terms, the spacecraft is being piloted, not in the sense of someone physically at the helm, but through a form of remote control or influence that allows it to adapt dynamically to the terrain of the interstellar medium. Such precision suggests that the guiding entity or mechanism has a detailed map of this region of space, possibly even one that accounts for transient events like particle storms, magnetic turbulence, or the movement of interstellar clouds. To possess such a map is to have observed this domain for far longer than human civilization has existed. That longevity carries with it a perspective alien to our own, a sense of time in which centuries pass like minutes, and in which the slow return of a tiny machine is but one thread in a tapestry of millennia. The scientific community faces a new kind of dilemma. For decades, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence was marked by uncertainty and speculation. We listened for signals without expectation, scanning the skies in the hope that somewhere, someone was transmitting. Now, for the first time, we have an unambiguous sign of interaction, and it did not come in the form we anticipated. No radio greeting, no obvious gesture of friendship or warning. Instead, it came as a hand laid silently upon one of our machines, turning it back toward us with a message woven into physics itself. The implications for our understanding of life, intelligence, and our place in the cosmos are staggering. If the source of this contact is biological, then it may be the product of an evolutionary pathway entirely unlike our own, perhaps emerging in an environment utterly hostile to human life. If it is artificial, then we may be dealing with an autonomous system set loose by some ancient civilization, still carrying out its mission long after its creators are gone. Either possibility forces us to reconsider the assumption that intelligence must be rooted in the same needs and motives that drive us. Voyager's altered state may also hint at the possibility that the signal is more than just a message or a form of control. It could be a form of probing, a way to learn about us through the machine we sent. By manipulating its systems, the guiding force could be testing the boundaries of our technology, seeing how it responds, how resilient it is, how it fails. In that sense, Voyager is now as much an object of study as it is a messenger. We have become, inadvertently, the subjects of someone else's experiment. The timing of this event adds another layer of unease. Voyager 1 has been in interstellar space for years, passing well beyond the heliosphere's edge. Why now? Why alter its course only after it has traveled so far into the dark? This suggests that it has crossed into a region of particular significance, perhaps a boundary, a patrol zone, or a domain claimed by the intelligence behind the signal. If so, the decision to send it back may be less an act of communication and more an act of enforcement, a quiet but decisive reminder that we have entered a place where we do not belong. For now, the spacecraft continues its steady arc homeward, each transmission an enigmatic blend of familiar telemetry and incomprehensible data. The engineers maintain their vigil, straining every antenna on Earth to catch the faintest whisper from the probe. The pulse continues, steady and unwavering, its variations teasing meaning without yielding it. And above all, the altered course remains fixed, a slow and deliberate path whose destination is both known and unknown, back toward us, back toward the place that sent it into the dark so long ago. The steady trickle of data from Voyager 1 is now more than a stream of information. It is the only visible thread tying our world to an unseen presence that operates far beyond our capacity to match or even fully describe. The telemetry logs no longer read like the familiar chronicles of a distant probe. They have taken on an almost narrative quality of their own, as if each fluctuation, each shift in sensor readings, is a carefully placed stroke in an unfolding picture. What is emerging is a sense that the craft's path is not merely reversed, but deliberately shaped into a complex maneuver. The return vector has subtle oscillations, tiny deviations from a straight trajectory, that form arcs and loops when plotted over time. These curves seem purposeless to our eyes, yet they are consistent enough to suggest intent. It is as though Voyager is being guided along an invisible thread, its course sculpted into a geometry that might be meaningless to us, but carries significance to the guiding force. These patterns are too regular to be the product of chance encounters with gravitational fields or interstellar winds. They are intentional signposts, inscribed on the very motion of our machine. As Voyager moves along this precise path, the particle instruments detect an increasing frequency of minute density variations in the surrounding medium. The changes are so small they would normally be dismissed as statistical noise, but they follow a progression that mirrors the craft's movement through space. It is as if the surrounding environment is tuned to respond to its presence, shifting subtly as it passes, as though the probe's path is being acknowledged in real time by the space through which it travels. This could be a form of interaction that does not rely on communication as we know it, but on the physical shaping of the medium itself. The cosmic ray detector, long one of the spacecraft's most consistent instruments, is now registering sudden bursts of high-energy particles in narrow beams. These bursts arrive from different angles, some aligned with Voyager's direction of travel, others striking from oblique vectors. Their energies are well beyond the usual interstellar background. Each burst lasts only milliseconds, but the frequency is rising in an oddly rhythmic fashion. This kind of concentrated particle beam would require an origin point with astonishing precision, especially given the vast distances involved. It is plausible to think that these bursts are not accidents, but targeted probes, scans of the spacecraft itself. The magnetometer tells a similar story. The local magnetic field is undergoing coordinated fluctuations with strengths and directions that shift in symmetrical intervals. In ordinary space, such regularity would be impossible. Magnetic fluctuations out here should be chaotic, driven by random turbulence and the slow drift of charged particles. The patterns Voyager is now recording are akin to a magnetic choreography, a deliberate shaping of invisible lines that the craft must pass through. These shapes appear to open as the craft approaches and close once it passes, almost like the petals of an unseen flower reacting to the presence of a visitor. Such phenomena suggest that the force or intelligence acting upon Voyager operates in ways that make our most advanced engineering seem primitive. It does not need to attach a device to the probe, or intercept its signal, or even alter its physical structure directly. Instead, it seems to be using the vast canvas of space itself as a medium, sculpting magnetic fields, particle flows, and density gradients into a form of interaction. For human beings, this would be like writing a message by shifting the wind and the tide across an ocean so that a lone ship could read the currents as it sailed. Another striking development is in the probe's thermal readings. Voyager's radioisotope thermoelectric generators have been cooling steadily for decades, their output slowly waning as the plutonium decays. But now, temperature logs from some components show unexpected increases, not enough to damage them, but enough to be statistically impossible given their deep space environment. These increases occur in short intervals, aligning once again with the rhythmic fluctuations of the incoming signal. The simplest explanation would be that some form of external energy is reaching the craft, warming specific components in a way that seems selective rather than random. That specificity is the most unsettling part. It means the source has awareness not only of the probe's position, but also of its internal layout. The slow spiral of Voyager's antenna toward Earth has also drawn attention. As part of its altered path, the high-gain dish now sweeps in a smooth, deliberate arc, transmitting toward home with uncanny precision, despite the lack of active navigation input from our end. This implies that the controlling influence is not simply tugging the probe in a general direction, it is actively maintaining its ability to communicate with us. That choice alone raises the most profound question of all. Does the guiding force want us to receive this information? The idea that we are meant to witness what is happening transforms the entire context of the event. This is no longer just a retrieval of a lost object, or a redirection away from forbidden territory. It could be a demonstration, a way of showing us something using our own creation as the stage. If that is the case, then the turning back of Voyager is not the end goal, but the beginning of a message whose full scope we cannot yet see. As the craft continues its arc, a new and even stranger phenomenon has appeared in its data stream. The low-resolution plasma wave instrument, which measures the density of charged particles around the probe, has begun detecting pulses that seem to mimic the structure of the original Golden Record messages carried on board. The cadence and spacing of these pulses are eerily similar to the way our own greetings and information were encoded decades ago. While it is not an exact match, it is close enough to suggest that the guiding intelligence has studied and replicated our methods of information storage and transmission. If that interpretation is correct, then Voyager is now receiving a reply, not in the familiar audio and images we once sent outward, but in the same compressed, abstracted format that we used to carry the story of Earth into the void. The thought is as thrilling as it is alarming. The craft that left bearing our message is returning with one of its own, shaped in our image yet born of a mind or mechanism beyond our comprehension. These developments have left mission scientists in a peculiar position. Every instinct drives them to decode the patterns, to translate the alien cadence into something comprehensible. Yet there is an undercurrent of hesitation, an unspoken awareness that the moment we fully understand the reply, we will be unable to unlearn it. Information is not neutral. A message from a distant intelligence could be a gift, a warning, or a subtle trigger designed to alter the receiver in ways they cannot predict. The knowledge that Voyager is carrying something back, something deliberately constructed, has transformed it from a relic of the past into a carrier of the unknown. Meanwhile, the course alterations continue with a grace and steadiness that speak of unhurried purpose. There is no sign of haste, no indication that the guiding force is working against a deadline. This patience is itself disquieting, for it implies either an indifference to time that human minds struggle to grasp, or a confidence born of absolute control over the situation. Whatever is behind this, It does not appear to fear detection, interception, or even comprehension. It moves as one who has walked these corridors of space countless times before, certain of the outcome. The final and perhaps most profound layer to this event is its effect on our understanding of exploration itself. For centuries, humanity has approached the universe as a frontier to be crossed, a wilderness to be mapped and mastered. We assumed that by sending machines outward, we were acting as the discoverers, the cartographers, the first to reach untouched shores. Voyager 1's return, under the influence of an unseen hand, forces a reversal of that narrative. We are not the first. We are not alone at the edges. The places we have just begun to touch are already known, already shaped, already part of someone else's domain. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on Voyager 1's turn back? Did it confirm your biggest fear? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.